Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's upload, as you could tell by the title and what's pulled up on the screen in front of you, will be me trying to answer the question of who will see the coldest temperatures this October 2019. So obviously I've been doing this for quite some time. I think this is my third or fourth year answering this question. Obviously each year being different, but I mean, realistically, this is gonna be hard to predict, especially this year. This year is just real tough. October, it may be chilly, but it may be warm. It's the models are just going crazy. It's not, one defined pattern, so it's gonna be harder than last year. But I'll do my best, and if because I do my best and I try so hard, consider subscribing. It really means a lot. This video's for free. The subscription's for free. Really, I would obviously consider doing so. It's my channel, but please. It would help out a ton if you could really just hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and leave a nice comment on this video, and that would just be amazing. So thank you for doing so. Assuming you did that. So first off, I want to look at the probabilistic ENSO, the ENSO outlook, and what I want to basically show you through this is that there's a neutral pattern. Okay, so the ENSO neutral is most likely to continue through the northern hemisphere spring 2020. So obviously through winter and fall. Through fall and winter, assuming it's going to continue, if it's going to continue through spring. This was updated the 12th of September 2019. A new update will be coming in the second Thursday of October, so in a couple of weeks. But I mean, much won't change. Probably just the neutral may go up in confidence. You could see 80-90%. So what does this mean? Why am I showing you this? Well, just keep that in the back of your mind, because an ENSO neutral, it looks like this for the winter. And you can see that the polar jet stream is coming from the north. It rips through the Canadian plains and into the U.S. plains and through the Appalachian and out through the into the Atlantic. And this jet stream can vary a lot. I mean, I talked about this so many times. This could be doing something like this. It could be more of a flat pattern, or, something more like this, or like we're having right now. Currently, at this moment, we have a negative P&A pattern. So that's basically what the jet stream does is it dips into the west and kind of troughs, or dips into the west, troughs in the west, and it ridges in the east, which is why the east right now will be witnessing some record-breaking temperatures this week. I mean, there's basically a fall heat wave going on across the southeast and the east, and including some portions of the Midwest. But also there's insane cold in the northwest. That's why we have a snowstorm. Snowstorm, winter storm warnings, snowstorm watches, advisories across much of the West. Montana getting 3 to 4 feet of snow, which is just ridiculous. So this pattern, may reoccur during October several more times. We don't know. It may be more west-oriented, maybe more east-oriented, or maybe something more like this. Well, let's notice how this is winter pattern. October not necessarily is really winter, either meteorologically or astronomically. So, I pulled up basically a bunch of neutral years that were winter. And you can see, I mean, it's a bunch. 1950, 2013, 1952, 1956, 1959, a bunch of years. I mean, a ton of years that were neutral, similar to this year's in terms of the ENSO. And you could see this is what the Octobers looked like. Now, this is not going to be perfect, but you could see that what they're showing is really cold by the Hudson Bay, James Bay in southern Canada or central Canada. And it's kind of locked up there, but not really getting itself down into the U.S. And it's still chilly. I mean, this showing is a little bit below average, so not above average for the east and the Midwest, according to this analog with a bunch of neutrals. So we should be looking at October that's slightly chillier in the east and warmer in the west. Now, and again, we've been seeing that cooler pattern in the west, so I don't think we'll necessarily be seeing warm conditions across the west. If anything, we'll be looking at the cold conditions doing something more like this. That's why this analog, analogs are good. I like them, but for some reason, this is not really looking good to me. The orientation of the cold is not really complying with what's going on right now with the pattern. But again, I mean, like I said at the beginning of the video, this is going to be a really tough forecast to make, tougher than usual because of not the models aren't really helping a lot. They're kind of confusing, you know, most of us. They're basically going back and forth, showing this and that. The neutral is showing something like this. They're showing something else, if anything at all. So now at this point, you know, leaves us a question hanging: what do we base it off of? So it's kind of like a combination of all these things. So this one you can see has the cold locked up to the north. I think some of this may be able to spill into the north during parts of October. I don't think it will be a record, you know, cold October. I don't think it will be as warm as September, but I don't think it will be, you know, as chilly as, say, November. I think November this year will be rather chilly, but October does not seem too ridiculous in terms of anomalies, or in terms of temperature anomalies, either way, above or below. Now again, this is I wanted to mention that this is for November. You can see that the neutral pattern, the same years by the way, but for November you can see, I mean, it's much more clear that it's more of a cold pattern for the east and the northern U.S., while the southwest is a little bit warm, and that's how I've been forecasting this. You know, this basically a print of my winter forecast right here. But again, this is just an analog, and you know, we have to see how good of a job they do predicting October, because if they're off on this, chances are then they're probably off on this. But even though there's more confidence in this one, as you can see, the anomalies of the temperatures are pretty strong. But that was just there to show you it. I wanted to quickly look at the sea surface temperatures. So a key factor that also could play into this is obviously the ENSO, the region over here. We already talked about that. But aside from that, we could be looking at this warm water, which I already talked many times before, playing a key factor this October. Many people have been asking, you know, when will this start really impacting our pattern? I've been talking about this for quite a while. When will this really start impacting our pattern? When will this really take into effect, this high pressure, or basically a giant system, a giant area of warm water that is rising, causing the warm air to rise, and basically creating a dome of high pressure. And it doesn't even have to be a high. I mean, it could also be just a strong low, as long as it creates a blocking pattern, even if it has the wind spinning this way. The jet stream usually doesn't, you know, go around it to the south. Usually it's easier for it to just go to the north, and that's what we would usually be seeing. And this just you know, dips into the U.S. And, you know, this could obviously bring chillier temperatures and snow, but this video is about the chilly temperatures. So if we saw those chilly temperatures in October, you know, we may be looking at, you know, a colder than predicted October if this really starts to take shape. But again, it also depends on the orientation of this blocking. If it's over here versus over here, I mean, if it's way over here, this blocking, then the jet stream is going to dip into the west, and before it reaches the east, it's going to actually create heat, but cold in the west, which is actually occurring right now. But if if it's right over here, the blocking pattern, and we see the jet stream do something like this, then it becomes warm over the west and chillier over the east, and it's kind of like that neutral pattern, what we saw at the beginning of the video, which is why also this is playing a key factor into what we're looking at. And this is also, I wanted to show you, I'm showing you September 2013 right now, because 2013-2014 winter is a pretty strong analog. It may be like the strongest analog winter of this year, because it was also neutral, and there were several characteristics that were similar to this year. So I may just call that my analog of the year, and I may make a video about why that's my analog video of the year, like why this winter may be a repeat of 2013-2014, something like that. But notice how September was also very warm for 2013, and if I were to pull up the image for September 2019, it was also pretty warm. And yes, many of you may have watched my video where I called for September being cold and snowy. I was not predicting such a abrupt pattern change, and it was not really foreseeable in the future that greatly. But basically, at least the northwest was chilly, and that's kind of what I got. But I was thinking it would be more east oriented. But yes, I do admit to my mistakes, and that was a huge flaw right there. But at least they'll cover it up. And you can see that the September for 2013 was warm. This year was also pretty warm, kind of similar to this. And you can see that for the 2013 October, it was a little bit chillier, especially across the west, and not terribly too cold or warm, which I think this October will be similar. I don't think it will really be a month where it is just ridiculous cold or a ridiculous heat wave. It's more likely that there would be a heat wave rather than a cold outbreak, I would say. But again, that could definitely switch itself around with that blocking pattern up north, or even if we get that negative PNA starting to break down. And this one, you can see it's just 1 year analog, which there's a lot of more differences just in a neutral year, and just being similar to this year, there's probably a lot more variables that went into this. But I mean, you could see it was a little bit on a cooler side. I think this October will also be a little bit on a cooler side. To what extent, I do not know, and that's the question we're trying to answer. So this is my final forecast, and let me explain to you now which color means and what it stands for one by one. So this may look at the beginning a little bit cold biased, and it really isn't, because I was just basically trying to factor in the uncertainty and the confusion of the model. So anywhere you see the purple, right here, this darkest purple, I just basically said, well below or just below average. Basically I have a pretty good confidence that chance that this area, or there will be some area like this, maybe obviously shift to 100 miles or two. It will be pretty darn chilly, below average, well below average. And then in this darker blue, it's below average, just still fairly below average, not really slightly just below average. So the first one's well below, this one, the second one's below, the third one is slightly below average, this one I would say slightly below average, and basically it could be a little bit warmer, but most likely it's going to stay on the cooler side of the thing, of the temperatures. And in this light blue, you may be wondering, if this is slightly, then what's this? This is basically just going to be, I think it may be cooler, but it could definitely end up on a warmer side as well. So if you live, say, in Ohio or in West Virginia or in Pennsylvania, and you're looking at this and you're like, okay, we're in a light blue, so you're saying that, basically what I'm saying is, there's a 50-50, but maybe not. Maybe there's like a 55 or like a 60 chance that it will be below average, and 50% that will be above average. So basically, I think that the cooler scenario may be a little bit more prevalent, maybe a little bit more likely, but it's not necessarily. So this could definitely be, at least average, or if not a little bit warmer. I don't think it will be record heat across these areas, but I don't think there will be record cold also. Across these oranges areas, I think that will be, like, a pretty good confidence that will be rather warm across these areas. Maybe not heat wave, or depends, because maybe if you just see above average temperatures at this time of the year in the south, you're still looking at pretty good heat. But again, I think it's going to be warmer in these locations. And if I were to revise, sorry about that little box right there, that was kind of that was a little error. But if I were to revise it, I'd maybe add like a second color of yellow, just a little bit across, a little bit further to the north across these areas, maybe, being slightly above average, or, just having a higher chance of being above average. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, guys. That's basically it for today's video. I hope you learned something new, and I'll catch you all guys on the next episode. So see ya. Bye.